The human nervous system are comprised of these two segments, the central nervous system pair and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system will be comprised of the brain and the spinal cord, and this two structure, it actually this both the structure together, it actually work as the central processing center. Means this is like these two places are the places where all the processing of every single sensory input and the program or the process of transmitting the motor signals, means the signal which will lead to some sort of response, all those things are actually maintained, all those things are regulated. So this is the part where the main integration takes place. Here is the this is the part which actually deals with the major like control center. It actually is a part which is mainly responsible for processing of memory or accessing any memory, even we can say, and even the cognitive function, character development, everything. The central nervous system is actually all that part. So whenever we talk about central nervous system, it is majorly we think that of the brain. So if we simply consider the brain as a part of it, so it will the brain that will be considered as a part of the central nervous system with that of the entire spinal cord. So this both this section together, though this section together will actually behave as the the part where all the processing and everything will take place. All right. And this component, this component will actually be responsible for this control, responsible for all those purpose of maintaining or sending out a signal for any motor movement or anything. So that will become the main part. So if we consider, then this is the brain, then the brain stem, and followed by this entire spinal cord will be what is responsible, or which is what considered as the part of the CNS. All right. Now, other than CNS, the CNS is actually the processing center. CNS is the place where the memory resides, where all these functions are all regulated and controlled and integrated, and everything, all those processes takes place, a central processing center. But CNS cannot work until and unless it receives the signal from the body, or it actually receives, or it actually is able to transmit the signal from the CNS to the other part of the body. Because this until unless this information exchange is taking place, there is no use of the of this brain or the spinal cord or the central processing center, because it needs to intercommunicate with the other part of the body. And for that intercommunication, we will find there exists this peripheral nervous system. Now, peripheral nervous system will be comprised of all those nerves that are running either into the let me draw it with another color pen. So they are either going into this brain, okay, or it is actually moving out of it. All right, any direction, means it can be like going inside, it can be moving outward, it can be anywhere in any direction. So any direction we find that this nervous system, this all the nerves that are running through and throughout the body, so this entire nerve, all of them together will form up the peripheral nervous system. All right. So if we draw it, I'm making a simple rough image of it. Okay. So it's actually the part which is responsible for sending out signal throughout the body for its different purpose. And nerves are actually a center, or actually is a place from where the communication to the entire body takes place. Just a sec, it's not coming in focus. Yeah, there you go. So this is the part which actually intercommunicates, means this is the part which helps in transmission of the signal to the entire part of the body, different part. So they definitely emerge from the the brain stem. They sometimes they emerge from the brain stem accessing to the brain, or they are connected with the spinal cord directly. So Either way, all of this part, they are responsible for the communication, because this communication is how these nerves are actually the one responsible for transmission of all the signals or intercommunication between parts of the body with that of the brain. So this becomes the peripheral nervous system. All the one in the red will become the peripheral nervous system. Okay, now when we consider that this actual picture, this part of this body, they are now, means all the part of the body are now connected. Because if I want to draw it like that way, I can put a head right here. I can put a head right here representing the face, and then I can actually show that this is actually the arm. This too can be considered as the arm part. All right. Let's make it like that way. So the arm part, then the inner body part, different part of the body, where access to different parts of the, like a different section of the body, it can be seen here. Then maybe these two are considered as the legs. These two legs are there in our body. So like that way, all the part of the body are now completely connected. Even different organs also, sensory organs also, all remains connected. So the PNS is responsible for that connection. That means whenever we talk about the nervous system, both the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, they are working together, and in their total synchrony, that we find that the entire body system is now able to function properly. Now talking about the this peripheral nervous system, it can be considered as of two different types. So the first one will be the sensory division. The sensory, sorry, it's not in focus. Sensory division. So in sensory division, we will find that all those cells which are all those nerves responsible for transmission of signal to the CNS, towards the CNS, that particular part is actually going to play a role. Okay, that actual part is going to play a role, means that is the part that is those nerves are actually considered under the sensory division. And along with it, we will find there is a motor division, and motor division is responsible for sending signal from the central nervous system to the different part of the body. Okay, so sensory is bringing information to the CNS, and motor will be taking the information to the CNS. Okay, so it becomes these two different parts. Now when we consider as them being two different part, actually in that particular motor section, that we are going to find that it actually has two more division of its own. Okay, it will be autonomic division, or means the one, achal discuss autonomic, sometimes they are actually called autonomic nervous system also. All right, and then we have the somatic nervous system. All right, see, the somatic nervous system are all those components that controls our voluntary functions. Means that we want to move our arm, all this, or want to move our leg, or maybe some deep breathing, or all these things. Every of those information are actually being carried by this somatic nervous system. Okay, that we want to move our arm, this somatic nervous system, or the motor division of PNS, will be responsible for sending the signal. Okay, if we want to move our leg, same, it goes with that. We want to move our head, it goes with that. So the somatic system will be the one that is taking which is controlling the body's all voluntary function, and just the opposite of it will be the autonomic system. It is the one that controls the involuntary function. Involuntary, which we say that is not in our own control, but in reality it remains with a bit of regulation. It comes with a bit of regulation. If you remember while studying the heart cardiac cycle, while studying the activity of the renal function, kidney function, there was mention of this two type of if you remember, there are two types of nerves. It is said that it actually has in connection with those called the, wait, are they sympathetic and parasympathetic. So these two types of like nerves that we find, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, they are the one which are responsible for like which are actually the part of the autonomic nervous system, and they help in regulation of all those involuntary functions. Okay, this mostly they induce the thing, this sometimes they like inhibit the thing. Okay, it will be discussed with a different like video where we discuss about the autonomic nervous system in detail, because it is a separate part to be discussed with. So that actually the one means, to simply put it like this way, that if certain situation occurs and we need the like the heart to beat faster, it is the autonomic nervous system which will be sending the signal for the heart to beat faster, not the somatic system, because somatic completely controls the voluntary functions, autonomic will be controlling the involuntary functions, and beating of the heart is considered as the involuntary function. So if it needs to be increased, it is the autonomic one working there. If it needs to be brought back to the previous normal state, it will be all autonomic nervous system, not the somatic one. So the motor division, it actually comes under these two different categories. Sensory, it is simply one single division of its own, means it's only a single type. So where all the like everything will actually work together, means every single part of them, they work together. All right. So if you remember, we have discussed about the so we have discussed about the diagram of the neuron, the previous video and all. So when we talk about the central nervous system and all these different parts and divisions, all so all these different parts and all, so we will be finding that that it will have this layer, a kind of a covering or kind of a kind of a covering or protection around it. Okay, means the entire CNS will be with a protective layer of its own, because this is one of the most crucial part of the body where if any damage occurs to this particular part, then it can lead to a total system shutdown, because this is the one regulating all the motor function, this is the one regulating all involuntary function. So if this central regulatory body is somehow get damaged, then it is going to be very fatal for the entire that individual, isn't it? So for that particular reason, there remains kind of a protective layer around it. Now if you remember, the brain is housed under the skull, isn't it? So housed under the skull, it actually has this like the skull bone protecting it. So if I want to draw it like that way, so let's say it has the skull bone right there. Okay, so it has the skull bone right there. Okay, the layer that protects it. Now on top of this skull bone, we are going to find, this is like the bone. Okay, so on top of this bone, we are going to find that it actually has one layer. Okay, let me try and draw it for you people. So it has a kind of a small layer which is responsible for, like, it's actually kind of a cushion for the skull. Okay, and not only the cushion, it actually is just one layer. This layer is called periosteum. Okay, it's a kind of a connective tissue, sorry, osteum. So it's a kind of a like connective tissue. All right, so on top of this will remain the skin. If you remember that we have a skin right on top of it, so this on top of it there is another connective layer, and then we have the skin present right underneath. Okay, but this bone, right underneath this bone, we are going to find that the different layers of our protective covering of the neural tissue will be present, because this and the neural tissues that are there underneath that, it is just having this particular like protective membrane in between these two structure. So when we talk about the bone, the periosteum, then like the periosteum, then the bone, then we have this next layer which is called the Dura Mater. Okay, so the Dura Mater is actually the first layer of protection. So it is not that thick. Okay, Dura Mater is not going to be that thick in nature, and it is you can say it is dense. Yes, it is like thick in that particular sense. Means I'm saying that the thing is not wide. Okay, thick in the sense, yeah, it will be thick. It will be tough. It has collagen present in it in large quantity and quite fibrous also. So this is the one, the layer which is considered as a tough out of all of them, the most toughest layer. Okay, but the reason I said it is not going to be thick is because the layer underneath it is actually considerably wider. So that's what I wanted to mean by like thickness is like that the layer underneath this, it is going to be a bit more thicker. Okay, so this layer is what is called, let me try and draw it here. Yeah, not a good drag. Can't, like, it becomes a bit tough while holding the camera and then drawing at the same time. Yeah, so there you go. Right, so the layer is somewhat like this. Okay, now there will be this trabecules that are present there. Trabecules means like small gaps and foldings, and these things can be found in throughout this entire structure. All right, so you can see it is comparatively like dimension wise it is comparatively like wider, isn't it? So this particular space will be found present in this particular layer. All right, so the first layer, as I mentioned, this first layer is what is known as the Dura Mater. Okay, this next layer is known as Arachnoid Mater. Okay, and then there we have the final layer, the last layer of it, and this layer, it is completely vascular type structure. It has vascular tissues then present with it and is comparatively very soft. Okay, and this layer, it is like in direct connection with the neural tissue. All right, so if I want to draw the neural tissue right here, then the neural tissue will be right underneath this. Okay, and this layer will be just a layer above on top of it. Okay, and this layer, it is like, it is just the one that is connecting these two. All right, so let's do one thing, let's make it into a shade. Let's give it a shade and just leave it like that way. All right, so this is the layer that forms up the outermost coating, you can the innermost coating. All right, so this one, it is what is known as the Pia Mater. All right, so we have these three layers: the Dura Mater, the Arachnoid Mater, and the Pia Mater. This three layer, it consists of the this protective membrane that I was talking about, and this protective membrane is called the Meninges. It will be found covering the brain. It will be found covering the spinal cord also. Okay, just the thickness will vary in those cases. Now in case of this like entire structure, as I said, the Dura Mater is a tough fibrous layer, which is the most strongest one out of the three, and is considered as the one which protects it from the direct impact and everything. Then we have the Arachnoid Mater, which is filled with large amount of these spaces, gaps called the trabecules and all. And it is like this particular one, it is a soft, comparatively soft layer, and due to this it has this spider web like arrangement, because you can see these layers, they are forming the spider web like arrangement, for which it is called this Arachnoid Mater. And then we have the final layer, which is very soft, and it is called this like the final layer, this right here, it is what is called the Pia Mater, and it is a connection between this, like the brain. This is the brain. Let's say I'll write it here. So the brain, or the any like CNS center, definitely the CNS and that of the outer covering. So this is the like the final layer between them. Okay. Now in between this, like this arachnoid matter, especially this space between the Dura Mater and the arachnoid matter, this particular area is what is known as the subdural space. Okay, this portion that we see here is the one that is known as the subdural space. Okay, and it is considered that in this particular space is where we will find, even right here also is where we are going to find a fluid known as the cerebrospinal fluid. It is what is going to be present right there. Okay, not only that, even the space like in between this the arachnoid matter and the Pia Mater, called the subarachnoid space. So that space also means there is a tiny space right here also in between these two layers. It is where we will also going to find that the CSF is present. Now the main purpose of the meninges along with the CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid, it's to give yes, the CSF is actually helping in maintaining the homeostatic balance of this particular area so that the neural conduction can take place properly. Plus, along with it, it has the major property of cushioning out any kind of impact. Okay, means it is acting as a shock absorber. Even the arachnoid matter, it's this layer, this like this waved pattern that it actually has got these gaps in between them. This is the layer which actually helps in cushioning out any kind of impact or injury. Okay, means if there is any trauma to this particular section, then this trauma will be nullified by the like this particular layer. Definitely if it is extremely like severe, then that particular cases it will cause the trauma. But other than that, normally this layer, it actually tries and protects it as much as possible. Okay, so this is the layer, like this is the portion or the space where we find that the protection to the CNS, and also it kind of it maintaining its homeostasis is what is being regulated, though its major purpose is that protection only. So this is like the protective layer for the central nervous system. No, this is like the for the brain we find this kind of thing. The cranium bone is there for protection and all. But in case of the spinal cord, it will be the it is under the vertebral column, isn't it? So both the places we have the protection of the bone, but not only the bone, the tissues underneath, it cannot be crushed, it cannot get a trauma. So as much as cushioning as possible, it is provided by this like this three layer. Okay, the additional protection we can say. Okay.